Welcome to the latest Watercolors Aquarium Gallery podcast, brought to you from the Aquarium Rush Studios in beautiful and sunny downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. My name is Ben.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Charles.
It is wonderfully sunny here today, this weekend in Grand Rapids.
It's beautiful.
It's been good. If I look a little flushed, to all of you watching on Facebook, it's because I did actually get a little bit of sunburn yesterday.
Congratulations.
I know, it felt good. I was in need. Well, this should be kind of a fun topic. It's not too weighted. It's not like one of those, this is something we strongly believe in. It's just
I still feel strongly about it.
This has been the easiest list yet for me to come up with.
Has it?
And because there are so many amazing options that I all kind of feel equally about. So I just kind of throw down the first ones that I thought of.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I thought with this one, we'd break it up a little bit and not just do our top 5, but also talk about some really, really easy ways to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a topic. We are talking about the top 5 easiest egg scattering fish we could think of.
Wait, are we talking, were they supposed to be the easiest ones?
Or just easy ones.
Okay.
As long as they're easy, you're good.
All of mine I think are within the realm of the average hobbyist. I don't know that I chose my easiest. I chose my favorite.
That worked. That's good. That's good. One of the things that I love about this topic is going back to me developing as a hobbyist. When I was a young hobbyist back in the day, and it was a common sentiment, and it still is a common sentiment, that when people hear the term mouth brooder, they think, oh, those must be easy to breed. I want to breed those, right? And there's some truth to that because of the Malawi cichlids. When you see Malawi cichlids, most of them, they're going to be really easy. Mm-hmm. And then the cichlids kind of get to the next level of being really easy to breed. But then people hear the term egg scatterer and think, oh, that sounds hard. That sounds complicated.
Yeah, and I tried to make a point with that in the last week. I set myself, egg scatterers really lend themselves to, if you're trying to churn and burn species, man, you can do it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I set myself up a relay of, I tried to do 7 egg scatterers spawned in 7 days.
Nice. And how close did you get?
I got to 5.
Only 5.
So that's 5 fish species spawned in 1 week. I will tell you the current results are I have fry from 2 species. One had eggs that didn't hatch, and I haven't had enough time to know what's going to happen with the eggs for the other 2.
All right.
So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, raising fry is part of why I will probably never... Actually, it's probably the main reason that I will never really be a breeder personally. I'm just a little inconsistent with food, and it's a little too much stress for me. But if breeding is your goal, I don't think that you should let that stop you. I've got a few people who will breed whatever cichlids exhibit parental care, you know?
Which is one of the qualifications for a cichlid.
Yeah.
So they pretty much all exhibit some form of parental care.
But that's why they're really only breeding cichlids. Yeah. And nothing on this list that I have, I think, is any more difficult to breed than most cichlids.
Some of them, actually, I think all of the ones on my list, I would say that if you are talking about how much effort you're going to put into it, I would say all of the ones on my list are less effort than just about any cichlid.
Yeah, it just needs consistency, not effort. It's not a mystery. It just, you got to do it.
One of the qualifiers for egg scatterers, not qualifiers really isn't quite the right term, but one of the consistent characteristics of egg scatterers, and the reason that Charles was able to do 5 of them in a week is many to maybe even most of the common aquarium fish that fall under the category of egg scatterers literally spawn every day.
Yeah. If not more than that sometimes. Like sometimes it's just constant.
That's just what they're doing the whole time. Kind of a weird existence.
Yeah. But it's like if these pairs of cichlids or even bettas or other fish that exhibit parental care, you sort of see that as like this grand romance. Like he's got to win her over, but like not just with looking really cool, he's also got to be able to like support her and defend her and like prove himself in all these ways. breeding egg scatterers is a little more like a bar environment where everybody's just trying to look as hot as possible just to get that one piece of action, and then they'll move on. And they do it a lot.
That's a pretty good description.
Glasses are flying everywhere.
I was really wondering how you were going to say it, and one piece of action was exactly the right way to say it. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. It's all about that like quick show and just kind of convincing her to go to the back of the tank.
Oh boy.
So with raising the fry as being one of the notable challenges to the egg scatters, that is not necessarily the case with a lot of the mouth brooders. Mouth brooders raising the fry, the cichlids are going to do it for you. And with a lot of like the Malawi ones, by the time those babies are released, well, some of them you don't even actually have to do anything. If the fry can be relatively protected in the tank, they're there. With the egg scatterers, there's actually some ways you can come pretty darn close to that.
Yeah.
Where you don't really have to do anything, even to get some kind of some decent yield.
Yeah, they're pretty adaptable. I'm actually experimenting with a new way, for me at least, of with these masses of fish I've gotten in the last week, is I spawn them in 2.5 gallons intentionally, because after the fry start showing up, I've been taking like half of one of my moina jars and turning it into a green water moina culture, and just because the idea is like, well, if there's food always there,
oh yeah,
then I don't have to do anything.
That makes it super easy.
Yeah.
My method is a little less live food dependent, and a lot of you have learned about me that when it comes to me and live food, well, let's just say it's a good thing there's Charles.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. And all of the ones on my list, so actually the ones on my list I have personally spawned, and then I put a bunch of extras on that I know you could also use this method for, that I just wasn't personally involved in, so I didn't want to like specifically say they worked. But Java moss is my friend.
Java moss is amazing.
I love Java moss as a spawning media for even so. Egg scatterers tend to fall into two categories: adhesive eggs and non-adhesive eggs. The adhesive eggs are designed to fall into and between rocks, right? So one of the things about egg scatterers is to call them bad parents implies some parenting. They don't. They're most of them are found in rivers. I shouldn't say most of them. Many of them are found in rivers, particularly the tetras, and they're gonna get some action.
Oh God, now that's gonna keep coming back this episode.
Or should we say the action is going to happen? Eggs are going to fall, and in a river, those eggs would be pretty quickly or pretty immediately carried away by the current. In a tank that doesn't have a lot of current, those eggs are going to fall. In that confined space, the parents are going to run around, turn around some the other direction and go, oh, look, food. That is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Calling them bad parents just shows us our mammal bias. They're great parents. They make a lot of babies.
That's true.
That's their whole point.
That's true.
Quantity over quality. We spend years. We spend 18 years, if we're lucky, raising our young.
It was only supposed to take 18?
And I think the egg scatterers would look at us and be like, what a waste of time. 1, 2? Like, come on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the ways I get around that is with Java fern or Java moss, just these dense piles of Java moss, so that even the adhesive ones and the non-adhesive ones, the adhesive ones, the parents tend to get a little closer to the spawning media. They're going to sort of, I don't want to say lay them on plants. They're going to lay them at plants.
Adjacent to.
They're going to launch them at the plants.
Yeah. And then they get lost in the plant material pretty quickly. A common spawning media for the non-adhesive ones is a bunch of marbles or pea gravel, something where the eggs can fall between the marbles, but the parents can't get their hungry little noses in between.
Cool.
Yeah. I think the Java moss is probably my personal favorite way to spawn.
Mine too.
You and I have slightly different strategies that we like to do for conditioning, but Java moss is amazing because egg scatter fry usually for the first like 2-3 days they're not capable of taking baby brine, but Java moss is amazing at growing little critters and things that they can find and eat for those first few days.
Infusoria, bacterial malm.
Especially because a breeder tank full of Java moss, it's going to have a little bit algae in it too. And that's almost even better for growing that stuff.
I agree. I think it's great. So my method, we'll talk about my method quick, my preferred method. Talk about your method quick. Do you have a method?
My method is to let you guys do it. I love learning about breeding. I love watching it be done. It is not the part of the hobby for me.
I know, I get it. You're still pretty good at talking about it, though, so you're almost as good at making stuff up as I am.
I've talked plenty of people through their breeder projects, and I've observed a lot of breeder projects, but it's not in the cards for me yet by myself.
We all know Charles's outlook on breeding.
It's fascinating.
It is.
It is fascinating.
Yeah. So the one method I like the most for the easy egg scatterers is 2 tanks. And with the ones that I have here, most of them could go just in 10 gallons, a 20 long for some of the ones that get a little longer and faster. And you put all the parents, or you split by sex depending on the fish. But really, I like to put all the parents in one and just really fatten those guys up and let this big, huge, massive wad of Java moss develop without fish in the tank for a little while so that it grows lots of good bugs and infusoria without anybody picking on it. Or you put all the males in one tank and you put all the females in the tank with the Java moss for a little while and fatten them up independently. That way, instead of it being like the bar scene, it'll be like the bar scene after COVID.
Oh, women.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and that's actually that's my preferred method.
Yours is to separate the sexes.
It's to separate them because that instinct to spawn is they'll spawn daily if you let them.
Right.
But if you make them be separate for like a week, that instinct is only going to get stronger every day. And then when you put them, and what I like about it is that at least for someone like me, when I was breeding when I was in high school, it was really useful to me because if you put them together on a Friday night, they're going to spawn the next morning, and then it's like, then I'm home to pull them out.
Yeah. So I'm going to pop them in the tank with Java moss. I'm going to keep them in that tank for just less than the expected gestational period for the eggs, which on average is 9 to 12 days. So I'm going to keep them in that other tank for about a week, and then pull them out of the tank. That's it. Most likely, we will have babies showing up in that Java moss, and those babies are going to have the opportunity to have their first food by munching on some of the infusoria. A couple of sponge filters, a couple of heaters, don't need lights. Depending on the tanks, they may or may not need lids, depending on the jumpers that they are. Good water quality, good quality foods. Charles would say live foods. I can't argue with that. But I like frozen foods. So.
I like frozen foods. I will also say that, and this is a shout out specifically to Mike Manji, because this is not something I would have tried without him telling me to try it. Refroids.
Oh, yeah.
As a fry food is amazing.
Oh, yeah. High protein, grow them fast.
Yeah, and the New Life Spectrum Grow powder, that's my normal, but like the Refroids, we have it here. We always have an open bottle because, of course, Allie's doing her thing. So that's what
out of the corals.
So that's what I use here.
Yeah. How else is your method different, Charles?
I'm usually trying to do timed matings, just because I like a little bit more control, and I think that's just a holdover from when I first. I'll talk about it later, so I'm just going to allude to it. The first species I ever bred, I bred several generations, and I was selectively breeding them. So being able to control who, when, was very important to me.
Right.
So that's why I think I prefer the separated and then timed, and then they're usually only together for a day or two, and then I separate them out again.
That's really, with most of them, all it's going to take, especially if you're separating them. I mean, they're gonna really be ready. Yeah.
And a lot of the egg scatters, at least the ones I've worked with, their spawning trigger is first light. And so that's why I like the weekend, because I would have them by a window, and I've always been a morning riser, so I'd wake up and I could watch them spawn, and then when they were done, I'd pull them out.
That's perfect.
That's so fun.
Well, let's get into some specific fish. I bet we'll come up with some other tips and tricks kind of as we're going through this.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think it'll be fun to go through this list because, like, it's a group where it's hundreds of species probably we could choose from.
Yes.
Pretty easily.
Yes.
But I bet there's a few copies on our list. Like,
I really
Probably.
hope we don't.
I don't know.
Right.
There's probably at least 2 on my list that I think will probably be on yours.
I will say that I definitely, you guys will notice, I definitely painted with a specific brush stroke on this list.
As is pretty much the way you operate.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate about you.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's usually my turn to start.
Yep.
I chose Emperor Tetras first.
Wait, I got to get a pen to scratch that off my
That's
list.
on my list too, actually.
I didn't think that. See, that's when we don't get in that often, so I thought that it wouldn't be that high up.
No, it's on my list too.
But
Yeah.
part of it is because it's so fun to select your males and females because they're sexually dimorphic in a really unique way. It's their eye color that distinguishes them from each other, which is like so fun to me. It's not typical.
No, are you talking the genus or the specific like palmeri species?
I kind of like the palmeri best, but it'd be
Yeah,
fun
me
to talk about the genus, I think. The blue being the carry, right?
The carry, yeah.
Being a little bit smaller. The rainbows, they're sexually dimorphic with 2 different eye colors, which is kind of fun. But I kind of just like the Emperor Tetra the
Yeah.
best.
The classic.
Everything on my list is a fish that I've spawned.
Nice.
And the Emperor Tetra is one of the few Tetras that I've bothered with. And that's not to say that Tetras are not fun. They're really cool. It's just that I've never... as we get through the rest of the list, people who don't know me will realize that there's a specific group of fish that I like to work with.
Yeah.
But Emperor Tetras, they're just so cool.
They're so cool. And to me, the coolness about breeding is less about raising up little fish to me. It's about the way that the adults look when they're in breeding mode. And it's about the behaviors that you get out of them. And I think that's going to be reflected all the way down my list because I think that Emperor Tetra is, like, it checks those boxes perfectly.
I completely agree. Gorgeous fish. They're one that I didn't spawn using the separate them method. I had them in a community tank that was really densely planted, and babies showed up.
I kind of think spawning them that way is actually easier because when I was trying the separation method, and I'm not going to say this is going to hold true for everyone else, it didn't work for me.
Really?
I gave up, put them in a 10-gallon, and then I had fry show up. And I was like,
Yeah.
Just failing your way to success.
exactly.
It could be that they're a little bigger, longer-lived tetra, which could mean they take a little longer to mature, which could also mean there's a little more going on upstairs.
Yeah.
And so the reaction to a new environment could shut them down for a little while. Whereas
Yeah.
if they're nice and comfy and cozy in their own environment,
They're definitely a little bit more high stress than some of the stuff on my list. But
Yeah.
I specifically wanted to talk about them for 2 reasons. A, the commercially available ones suck.
Yes, I've been very lucky that almost all of the Emperor Tetras I've been able to interact with are local bred, amazing ones.
right?
So if you're breeding them, I want them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is, and I'm going to talk about it here, everything on my list is sexually dimorphic.
Ah,
I don't know why, but when I'm working with egg scatters, I really am attracted to the sexually dimorphic ones just because Amy's like, I love that spawning dress and I love the behaviors. And so, like, the Emperor Tetra is a specific example of, I think, like, they're sexually dimorphic in their eye color and their body coloration and their tail shape, and their behavior is very different. And it's just, they're just, I was actually attracted to Emperor Tetras because my brain processed them as like a fish equivalent of like an elephant seal. They're just so absurdly different from each other.
yeah.
Yeah. They're like their own little niche.
Yep. I like them. Good choice. Obviously, it's a good choice because
Because we all put it.
Because we all play.
I made a list, by the way, of like, I think looks like there's 8 of them on my list.
Oh, I limited myself to 6.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, now I'm down to 7.
All right. I guess, Charles, what one do you want to start with?
I'm going to start off with cherry barbs.
Wait. Nope, that was on my probably just as easy, just haven't done it list. So,
Probably just as easy, but you know Charles is going to talk about them list.
Yeah. It's the first fish I ever spawned back in 2005.
You have a fondness for that.
I have
and
a
get it.
fondness for them. And this is a species that I specifically worked with for a while. I bred 5 generations of cherry barbs, and I was selectively breeding my males. And every generation I would go out and find females to pair them with because I'm not into inbreeding my lines. And I wish I had not, like when I started college, I just kind of let them age out, and I really should not have done that. But live and learn, I guess.
Yeah.
Cherry
Hindsight.
barbs to me are like a really good example of you can really improve that fish by just breeding a few generations. Like every tank raised cherry barb like line I've ever seen is better than the farm bred ones from.
No doubt.
And you can like within a few generations that seems to become pretty clear. Like if you pick and choose your males, if you are crossing out with females, like it's very obvious that somebody has put work into that fish, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I think that could be, and I'm going to just pop this on here because I don't feel like talking about it later on the list, but I think that's going to be true for everything on my list, that almost all of these could benefit from dedicated breeding if you had the mind to.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
All right, where do you want to start?
I'm going to keep the barb thing going, and I'm going to talk about rosy barbs.
Cool.
That was on my list.
That is one I totally did in 20 high. I think that might have been my first like intentional egg scatterer. My first egg scatterer was not like I'm going to try to breed an egg scatterer. They just happened. But the rosy barbs were very intentional, and it was a 20-gallon tank that I had kind of let it go a little bit. The light was on a little too long. I didn't clean the algae for a while.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, and I went, hey, that's perfect spawning media. It did have Java moss in it, but the Java moss was just all entangled with a bunch of algae. So I popped I think it was just like 6 rosy barbs, 3 males, 3 females into the 20-gallon tank. Kept them in there for the classic, I don't know if it was a week. It might have even been 2 weeks. It might have been a little bit longer than that, expecting that they're not necessarily going to go on the first day. Pulled them out, and I think I got 15 or 20 fry without doing anything other than that. I started crushing flake food to feed the fry and easily raised 15 or 20 of them.
That's plenty.
Yep.
Yeah, that we actually have rosy barb fry downstairs right now.
Yeah, they're easy.
And this is a fish that I'm going to talk about. A couple other alternative strategies that I haven't used, but I've heard people use. This species has the benefit of they have a much more adaptable temperature range than most of the fish on my list. So upper 60s is actually fine for them.
For rosy barbs?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know people in the club who have spawned them in tubs.
Oh, for sure. But some of those tubs are going to get
Yeah.
into the 80s during the summer.
And that's true.
Yeah.
But they'll put them out early in the season because
Yeah.
they like it a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
Or late in the season.
That tub spawning thing is something that we should get a guest speaker on and do a whole, because I've done a little bit of it, but there's some members of the club that have just been hardcore.
Yeah.
It's like its own mini hobby.
It is, and it's super cool. Yep, it's
Also,
super
just
cool.
going to plug rosy barbs a little bit. I think they deserve to be in more tanks just because they eat black brush algae.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, like I was having the thought while you guys were saying that, like, they are such voracious black brush and even to a point hair algae eaters. Could you raise fry if you just grew a lot of both of it and not had to like keep inputting as much?
Probably. I mean,
Just
they're going to
curious.
eat the hair algae, but they're also going to eat the mulm off the hair algae.
Yeah, like if you just had algae, would they just kind of raise themselves?
Yeah, they might. They might. They're supposed to be pretty. The parents are supposed to be pretty good fry hunters. So I think it's a little bit more of a challenge to get the fry to grow up with the parents without turning into lunch.
Yeah, you'd still need 2 tanks.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Yep. I like that method because then you can condition as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, it's my turn,
It's your
isn't it?
turn.
All right. This is probably the most difficult one on my list, but I still don't think it's hard. It just will need a little bit more planning. Purple pencilfish.
That'd be fun.
Because I think this is one of my favorite egg scatterers overall. And I think it would be totally worth the effort of softening down the water a little bit or having to lower pH. They would benefit from a black water setup. I'm not sure how low you'd have to go to do them, but I don't think it's that low.
I think if you did 50% our water and 50% tap water, it's enough to get those guys to go.
Just a little closer to
With the piece of
neutral, I
driftwood in the
think
tank.
would be fine. And they're beautiful. They're sexually dimorphic. They're a really unique fish, so people are always going to want them. And that is a little bit of the part of breeding too. Is if you're breeding it and nobody wants it, then what do you do with them?
Right.
But it's just such a cool
And they're
fish.
behaviorally so fun. Pencilfish really are not as popular as they deserve to be. Like most of them aren't very flashy color-wise. Purple pencilfish are an exception to that rule, but behaviorally, good lord, are they fun to watch?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. When they look like they're floating sticks.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love those.
And it's like they're floating sticks, and then all of a sudden they do this dash and they flash up beautiful, and those males are so gorgeous, and it's so fun. A tank of pencilfish of any species is fun to watch, but I think this is the prettiest one.
They are a little bit more of a challenge than some of them.
Yeah.
But,
Probably worth it.
Yeah.
oh, yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
I toyed with Beckfords on here, but these inched out as my favorite. Beckford, I think, would get you a lot of what we're talking about with the purples, but be way easier to breed and rear.
Agreed. Cool fish.
Yeah.
Well, since Ben took Rosy Barbs, I had to come up with an alternate, and you're going to be proud of me because I picked a non-barb.
What? I had my pen ready to scratch out another barb on my list.
I'm going to say Espe Rasboras because we put zero effort into those.
Hang on, I got to scratch those out on my
True.
list.
That's a fish that I thought for sure you were going to have to lower pH and stuff
I thought
for.
so too.
And
Yeah.
so we never processed it as we're going to try and breed them here because that's really not the goal of what we're trying to do with our egg scatters here. We're trying to show people how easy they are. And then we had a bunch of them in a retail tank. And I'm looking at the camera. In a retail tank. And we sold them. And all of them. And then we just didn't, put a thing in for a few days. And then there was Fry.
We sold them like right when they came up, and somebody bought all of them.
Yeah.
After like 2 days, and then we had so many fish in quarantine that we couldn't fill the tank right away.
Yeah. So then, if you were in the last, I think it would have been like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you saw a group of Espe Rasboras, and there was a size of groupings that was like, oh, these are like half the size of the other ones. What happened was that was a group of Espe Rasboras that we raised, and a group of Espe Rasboras that we purchased from our wholesaler, and they just timed out to be like, you know what, let's just put them all up at the same time.
Yeah, and they worked. The size difference was just fine with those guys.
Yeah. So that's what that was.
Yeah.
Great choice.
That was a really cool one to watch because it was new to me. It was,
And they
I've never
colored up
tried it.
really young.
They're gorgeous. I love them.
Yeah, that was every step of the way. That was a fish that was like spectacular and weird and like completely unexpected because like they colored up so young. They looked like Espe Rasboras when they were like this big.
Yeah.
And had the coloration of adults almost right away.
No effort.
Yeah.
Zero effort into those. Like since we were unprepared for them, I had nothing to feed them. And so we just went straight to reefroids, and they were taking those right off the bat.
How many did we end up with? Do you know?
We sold, no, we had like seven.
7. With zero effort?
With
like
zero-
how much effort was it? It was zero effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, so shout out to the Aquarium Club and the people doing the BAP points. You should be listening to this. If you want to get Breeder of the Year, Charles did, I'm gonna reiterate this at the end of the talk, but Charles did 5 in 1 week. SB Rasboras, man. Come into the store, buy 6 of them, put them in a tank for 2 weeks, and then move them to your display tank.
Yeah. 6 adults.
6 adults.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes they do come in on the like closer to juvenile size. The ones that bred were actually a trade-in.
Yeah.
So they were even a little bit older than
Right.
average. I think that's why they went so fast. But I mean, give it a month or 2 if they're not adults, and they will be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They should start breeding young. A lot of those
Okay.
egg scatterers start breeding surprisingly young.
Yeah. Most of the egg scatterers that I've worked with are mature at like 6 months.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna go with another unexpected one. Another one that was a surprise to me.
Okay.
The neon dwarf rainbow fish.
I had that one
Did ya?
because I put the ones that showed up in our tanks.
Yeah.
And that's one that did
Yeah.
multiple times, actually.
Yeah.
That was one that I've never worked with. But when Ben was talking about egg scatters to do downstairs, he basically told me, don't even bother because we've already done it and we know how to do it and it's literally nothing.
Yeah. Speaking of basically being able to spawn as juveniles, those are fish that get 3 inches as adults, and we had them spawn at like 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And spawn like crazy, like 50 or 60 fry.
Yeah.
In
Crazy.
2 weeks. So that one. So one of the reasons that surprised me is because rainbow fish are typically considered a mop spawner. They go into masses of algae or plant material and they spawn in there. And so many of the rainbows are pretty easy to spawn with spawning mops. And you can pull the mops and pick the eggs a little bit like killifish. I just kind of assumed that the neon dwarf rainbows were like that. Admittedly, I had done zero research because the idea was not to spawn them. We were quarantining them, and there was substrate in the tank. Wasn't there, or was it a bare bottom? No, it was a bare bottom tank.
I think that would have been before our quarantine tanks were bare bottom.
Okay.
I think it
So
probably
then
would
there
have been
was substrate.
gravel.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, so gravel in the tank, 2 sponge filters.
And when he says gravel, he means like basic gravel.
Just pea gravel. Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
fancy.
And so we put it was probably a dozen. Maybe it was 2 dozen. We were buying those in pretty heavily back then. But let's just say it was a dozen or 2 in a 40 long, so a little bit bigger, but I think you could do it in a 20 long with just not quite as many. We put them in there for 2 weeks, and then we brought them upstairs because they were done with quarantine. And we went down there 3 or 4 days later, and it was an amazing number of fry swimming around in the tank. There was no Java moss. There were no plants. It was bare. It was a completely open tank. The key to it was there were also no other fish in there to eat the eggs. And that's one of the keys to egg scatters is eggs are tasty.
Yeah, but I just need a little bottom feeder or something for my tank. Those cories that you think are so cute, those loaches that you think are so cute, egg stealers.
They'll get fat and happy on eggs and fry.
Yes.
It's called caviar.
To them, yeah, it's definitely a delicacy.
These guys we also did manage to raise up on just crushed flake. We didn't do anything extra with them. Rainbow fish.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep.
And we didn't even mention how gorgeous this fish is and sexually dimorphic in a really clear way.
Yep, yellow fins or orange fin or red fins.
As long as we're talking about rainbow fish that just pop up out of nowhere. What's the name of the one downstairs? The one that I thought were parva rainbows, but there was something else.
Picta.
Picta
Oh, yeah.
rainbows. Yeah. Pretty sure that's what those fry are.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just showed
Oh,
up.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So this one is even more insane because I had to backtrack with Sally. She pulled plants out of that tank.
Yeah.
And there
Right.
must have been eggs in there. And then in one of our plant propagation tanks, we had fry show up.
And I think it was like a nubius, like not even a mass of fluffy plants. It was like just plants.
Yep.
We should do a little research on this one and see if those have adhesive eggs or not. They must. I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
I think
either
rainbow
that or
fish
it was
do,
just
but-
like a crevice somewhere, you know? I don't know. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
That's pretty cool.
So anyways, yeah, as long as we're talking about rainbows just showing up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That one deserves to be mentioned.
I like it. I like it. The diversification award in the Aquarium Club is one of the awards that you can get by breeding a whole bunch of different fish in a whole bunch of different categories. Rainbow fish is one of the categories. Neon dwarf rainbow fish is, like I said, we did nothing. Have relatively mature, healthy fish in a tank for a little while and then take them out.
And if you're
Done.
going for the diversity award, right now we've already covered barbs, rainbows, rasboras, tetras,
We have indeed. I
So
think
that's 4.
the category is cyprinids and
and kerosene.
kerosins.
Okay, so
I
the
think, but I'd have to
barbs
look
and rasboras
Yeah.
might be a double up, but
right, but we definitely covered 3 of the categories,
yeah.
and we already talked about cichlids being really easy. So anyway, we
And
Yeah.
egg depositors are another day.
yeah. Actually, that reminds me, I'm gonna put one more on my list to make sure we talk about it as one of my alternates. That could also get one of the other categories. Is an egg scatterer. And could get you, yeah, okay. Yeah, I had to think that through.
All right. Do you need to say it or?
No.
Okay.
That's when we come back because
Okay.
that's an alternate. I've never done that one, and right now I'm only talking about ones I've done.
Well,
I think I know what it is.
I'm gonna skip. I had 6 here. I'm gonna skip my gold barb because I think we kind of covered it with the cherries.
Yeah, let me scratch that out of my list too.
I just like yellow.
I don't care. I'm going back on brand with barbs when you're done here.
That's fine. I just think we covered everything I have to say about gold barbs with cherries, other than yellow. They're pretty. They're
Yeah.
really brightly colored. Try a gold barb.
Here's a little trivia though with gold barbs. Did you know that originally they're not yellow?
They're green, aren't they?
They're green.
Yeah, I did know that. I've never seen actual pictures of wild gold barbs or anything.
Right. Yellow's an aquarium strain.
And we don't know how the guy did it.
Right.
He made that proprietary, and then I think,
He took it to his grave.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now
What a
we have
guy.
them. Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. What was your?
So I'm gonna skip that one, and I'm gonna go over to. I'm gonna do my Danio.
Yeah.
I chose Pearl Danios
Nice.
because I think that's my favorite one. It needs a little bit love to color up.
Right.
They get beautiful pinky purple, and when they are in breeding mode, which is what we're talking about, they will get, when they flash, like an iridescent, almost neon orange stripe along the spine.
They're so pretty.
Yeah. Gorgeous display, especially if you've got it in a spotlit tank where they can kind of filter in and out of it. Watching the males try and like steer the females over to a patch of plants is pretty entertaining. Just keep fluttering over there like, okay, come on. I love that fish.
Yeah. I'm going to comment on Danios just in general and say that I think Danios in particular probably benefit more than anything else we've talked about here doing the group spawning over stuff method, because I think they really just are more prone to going for it if they can just have a free-for-all with it.
They're competitive about it.
They
Yeah.
want a something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still going to scatter, but that's why the Java Moss mass
Yeah.
is perfect for those.
So I think having like a group of Danios though is the way to go with them personally.
Right.
Like, and when I say a group, I mean like what I'm working with downstairs is a dozen of them. So.
I think that's a dozen is right.
Yeah. Mine would spawn all the time in my rotalas. They love that.
Oh yeah.
Just like, especially when I fresh trimmed it and they could get over the top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never saw fry pop up because it was a community tank, but they spawned all the time.
Lots of snacks for
Yeah.
the other fish in the tank.
Exactly. Good free food.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the one exception to that would be like the, I think it's Celestes genus, the Celestial Pearl Daniel genus, whatever that one is.
Celestictes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Because they're very much, they don't seem to be a group mass spawner. They definitely seem to be a pair spawner.
I think that if we're talking about the genus Danio,
Yeah.
which I believe pearlies are in the genus Danio, right?
Now you're
Are
going to
they
make me actually
Brachydanio
look it
now?
up. I
I
think
think
they
so.
might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like the
Yeah.
Danio-y Danios, I don't think you can count. Like CPDs, they're kind of like their own little group of things to me.
They're their own little
They don't
weirdy-
really act like a Danio. They don't
Right.
really act like a Rasbora or a Barb. They are what they are.
They don't really act like a normal fish.
No, they
Yeah.
are still a Danio.
Okay.
but
So I think then we can make the general statement about the genus Danio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really what I want to
Yeah.
talk about. Is just like
Yeah.
Danios in
well,
general.
you said
Pearls
Daniel,
being my
and I
favorite.
wanted to qualify
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know the distinction there.
Yeah.
Symphodanios and Brachydanios and
Yeah, there's some distinctions
Right.
there that need to be made.
Yeah,
Right.
the Danio-y ones.
the Danio-y Danios.
Yeah, Daniel.
But I think that's another fish that 20-gallon tank might be a little better because they get a little more size, and you want to do a bigger group of them. You could get away in a 10 if you're really paying attention to water quality. Stick them in there with a bunch of Java Moss, take them out a week or so later, boom, done.
Yeah,
They're more
I think
fun in
so.
a longer tank though because they're so
They are.
zippy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they move around a lot.
Yep.
All right, well I'm getting back on brand. So I'm gonna say panda barbs, and I'm gonna make sure I do the scientific name Halodario fasciata, just because that one has been changing so much that I want to make sure I'm being precise in which one I'm talking about. Now, this is actually probably my favorite thing on my list. I really love this species, and this is a species I wish more people did, because I've only seen examples of one person selectively breeding them, and oh my god, they were gorgeous. And this is just a fun species to work with because it was probably more accurate to say it's a clade of species because I would really love to see people putting collection locations on them. And this is like a call out to wholesalers and stuff or people.
Collector. You got to
Collectors go all the way out.
Yeah.
Like up the, well, I'm saying to wholesalers because I can't tell collectors too, but they can.
Right.
Please.
If you can find a collection location for panda barbs, I want to know. But because apparently there's a lot of regional variation, and they're from I think Eastern India, and so they come from a pretty large swath of ecosystems.
There's a lot of different kinds of water there that have been separated for a very long time.
Yeah, and so the evidence is just indicating to me that there are probably several distinct species that we haven't figured out how to differentiate yet. So, but any panda barb you find out there is gorgeous. They're amazing fish. And
did you do those here?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay.
That was
We got some babies downstairs right now.
Those were the first intentional spawn here in this location.
Okay, that's right. That's right. You talk about so many barbs that
I
sometimes
know.
I lose track, and there's all the ones that have the yellow E with the blacky stuff on them.
Yep.
And I get them mixed up sometimes.
Nope.
And sometimes when Charles is talking about barbs, it's just like, barbs.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. We
I'll
let him
own
play
it.
it out.
We do.
But to Ben's defense, I do have a strong preference for orangey, reddy, stripy barbs. So,
But they're all a little bit different, and they're all
Yeah.
super cool.
yep.
Yeah.
But this one is one that you guys in GVAC, get on it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. This whole episode is a little challenging here. Like, hey, breed stuff for us.
That's it.
But this one is for me, I specifically want to say, because almost all the ones we get are wild caught. And that's not me complaining. That's just me saying, for you wanting to start a breeding project, that is fresh brood stock that no one has messed with.
That's
Good point.
pretty awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, so whatever you do with them, that's new territory.
Right.
You can't say that for cherry barbs. You can't say that for rosy barbs. You can't,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it feels like a lot of the times when people are breeding something like cherry barbs, they're like trying to walk it back to wild. Because the wild ones, they come out of those rivers and lakes pretty gorgeous. And things that are bred in mass and farms don't get prettier.
True statement.
Yes. So if you can take something wild and build your own strain, that's how you improve on something that's already awesome, rather than trying to take a farm-bred fish and try and make it into something that it should be.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. Specifically, describe your method.
This was the one where I would urge people to try the method I tried with the cherry barbs. So what I would do is just buy a group of them, let's say 6 or 8 minimum, just because they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then when you know what you're breeding for, figure out your favorite male and your alternate. And then you pick your 2 healthiest females, you pull them out, set them up in spawning tanks.
How big?
I think 5.5 is.
What specifically did you do?
I did 2.5s here,
Okay.
but that also required me to be doing like every other day water changes when the females were in them being heavily
Yeah.
fed. If you had a little bit more room,
Right.
that
Back
would,
up the water changes a little bit, keep the water quality up.
Yep. And like, let's say 5 to 7 days separated. And then you, what I like to do is I don't like distractions when I'm breeding with these types of barbs, because if one pair is spawning and the other pair isn't, the other pair is eating.
Right.
So you'll want, if you're doing it exactly the way I'm doing it, you'll want 2 spawning tanks. You'll separate out the females. You'll pick your male, put him with your female that looks the fattest. You'll take your alternate male, put him with the other female.
So you're just doing them as pairs.
Just as pairs.
Just as pairs.
Because
Cool.
I, with these selectively breeding that I like to try and do with barbs, I like to have control.
Right.
I'll set them up on, here it works. Let's say set it up on a day that you'll be there in the morning.
That makes sense.
When you see the females noticeably thinner,
There's a reason for it.
pull everyone out. Here, it literally took. They didn't spawn the first morning. They spawned on the second morning, and that was just. I think it was just because they were a little late.
Yeah,
but
it was obvious, right?
But it was very obvious.
Okay.
A well-conditioned female barb will have a noticeable bulge in the stomach, and it's just suddenly gone.
Time to move them.
Yep. And then once the fry hatched, we had not fully established our monocultures at that point, so they went straight on to refroids.
Oh, perfect. And
they were eating that probably day 2 or 3.
Do we have refroids in stock right now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And this species, at least for me, has been a little bit more slow growing, and I wonder if that's just because they're wild. The fry we have downstairs are F1s, and so they haven't been selectively bred to grow faster.
A lot of the barbs are a little slower growing than some of the other. Not quite rainbow slow, but
yeah.
But they're cute
Yeah.
when they're tiny. They honestly at this point, they're probably, we talked about this with the SBs, but like they're probably a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, and they already have their stripes, and they just look like teeny tiny like melon barbs, panda barbs. It's so cute. Like I just love the mini fish.
Yeah.
what other barbs could you do using that exact same method without messing with the water quality that are commonly available? How's that? Enough disclaimers?
I will say stay tuned for the rest of my list.
Of course.
And any others
All right,
that
he's
I
not
can,
done with barbs yet.
Yeah.
He's coming back to that
Right.
and
well.
any others that I cannot, that I don't have on my list that I think of, I'll write down and I'll list them off at the end.
I like it.
But the cherry barbs were touched on. They would benefit from it. I think you could do it if you were really of a mind with the rosy barbs, and I would be less prone to do it with like the tetras and rasboras we did here, because I think they like to be in a group.
Yeah, I like that. So the next one on my list was the first egg scatterer that I did, and it was incidental. I did not intentionally do egg scatterers. I'm not getting into the details of how it all happened, but well, okay, a little bit of the details. So when I had my fish room set up, we also sometimes had extra kids living in the house. That happens sometimes. That's a whole different story. And this one kid said, "Hey, I caught this little baby soft shell turtle. Can we keep him?" And this was like he had it for a month at this point, right?
Right.
So it wasn't. I think this was probably October or November.
Yeah, you shouldn't release it if it's been in an aquarium for a month. Like,
Right.
hey,
Right.
don't catch wild things. You can't release them.
Right.
Don't.
Particularly, you can't release them in November.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, how are we going to get this crazy soft shell turtle? I didn't know anything about turtles at that point, particularly soft shells. I know that can be a little bit on the touchy side. He didn't know anything about it. So we stuck a bunch of white clouds in there to see if they would breed. Or no, to see if the turtle would eat them.
Yeah.
And the turtle, by the way, did not eat them. But we also threw a whole bunch of other things in the tank to try to get the turtle to eat. And sometimes this kid would throw stuff in the tank that we're going to go with not what I would throw in the tank, right? Not recommended to throw in the
Cheetos
tank.
and that kind of thing.
Macaroni and cheese.
Oh, boy.
Not a lot of it, but some of it. So,
Enough.
yeah.
Any macaroni and cheese in your aquarium. I mean, I think maybe this might be the firm stance we need to take here. Don't put macaroni and cheese in your aquarium.
I think we can say that as a...
Any macaroni and cheese in your tank is too much macaroni and cheese in your tank.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the turtle didn't make it. And then the kid left. And when he left, this is a long story, but anyway, I went back and I checked the tank, and it was probably 2 months. There were 3 times as many white clouds in the tank as we started with.
I'm shocked.
And the males were gorgeous.
Oh, awesome.
The full adult breeding males. This to me, I think it was even on like my underrated fish list.
Of all the stuff we've talked about so far, I would argue that white clouds are easily the most underappreciated list we've talked about today.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
true.
Like they deserve way more than attention than
The
people
way
give them.
the way the males flick their fins, they get almost like a burgundy kind of color going on.
They're
They're
beautiful.
awesome.
I think white clouds deserve to be as popular as neon tetras.
I don't disagree. And maybe even more popular because they are hardier and you don't need a heater.
Yeah.
Easily
Yeah.
down into the 60s. Easily. Yeah.
Anyways,
Yep. Go back to the method I talked about originally. 10-gallon tank, no problem. Massive Java moss. They should be incredibly easy. And you could separate the pairs or you could just put them all together. I don't think it's going to matter.
and this is a fish that I want to talk about a little bit of. They are not considered extinct in the wild. They're considered basically extinct. in the wild.
Basically instinct.
And so it's like you can find them, but right now the impression is that it is not a functional breeding population. So
Yeah,
Right.
what is the word for like assumed to be going extinct? Like there's a word for that.
yeah,
Can't remember what it is.
I can't remember either.
Like basically there aren't enough of them. We're just waiting them out at this point.
Right.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure.
they exist in the hobby because
Plentifully.
we like them.
Right. Plentifully.
And I think that's a great example of like the hobby. Like if we lose things in the wild, they still exist. And that's really cool. Just like them not existing in the wild isn't cool, but the idea that
Right.
like we as hobbyists, we can allow something to continue existing just because we're keeping them for fun.
I completely agree.
You know, we
Yep.
should stop and just,
Yeah.
We get to make that
Appreciate the-
decision because we think they're pretty.
yeah, let's just appreciate the good and power we have to do good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
This also would be a great fish for somebody who's really a beginner or for getting kids involved, where, of course, we are big proponents of keep your water quality great. Sometimes we know with getting kids involved, that's not as realistic as we would like it to be. This is a
Yes.
very, very forgiving fish.
yeah.
This would probably, and this is my personal bias coming out, just because of my experiences with fish keeping, this is a very close second in my head as the easiest fish to keep in an aquarium. My first place is zebra danios, but when I say close second, I mean right behind it.
Stay tuned.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. I agree. Yep. And they're so pretty.
they're gorgeous.
Yep.
and
Every
They're
picture
minnows.
you've seen of them,
not
minnows.
tetras.
every picture you've seen them online.
Did
I
I call them a
haven't-
tetra?
No, somebody in
No.
our comments did.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, they are a minnow. A
They
cyprinid.
A cyprinid, so
Yeah.
more closely related to Danios, barbs, rasboras than tetras. It's weird that all those ones that we consider schooling fish are lumped together and tetras are separate, but they're continents away.
Yes.
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 Anyway,
Anyway, the white clouds. I have never seen a picture that does a white cloud in person justice ever.
I think the picture in one of the original photos in the exotic aquarium fishes by Dr. Innes, right? And this would be pictures from, it might even be a colorized picture, which might be why it looks like almost as good as they do when they're in full breeding because it's a little bit synthetic. But that one actually has a picture of mature white clouds in the book, and they look really good in there.
sweet.
Yeah.
Which is, we don't have that book sitting out. It is on the shelf,
Oh, we have the wrong books.
but I know. Yep.
All right, I think it's my turn. This is my last one.
Did we go through it? Really?
Yeah,
I think
Five already?
well, I had
I
6,
think
but
we-
I skipped one.
And then we
Wow.
killed some of her list.
This has been so
Yeah,
much fun.
1 or 2. Yeah, oh, I mean, we could go forever. Like,
Yeah.
this is the beginning of the list,
yeah.
right? All right, this is one I want more people to work with. I've brought them up before.
Uh-huh.
I keep saying it. I don't see that many in tanks, and I would love people to be confident with this fish and work up to others. And I'm going to talk about the Congo tetras again.
Ooh. So you're definitely like on the board. We have our little whiteboard up there that talks about what we're going to do for our topic. It says top breeding egg scatterers.
It says breeding, yes, top
Yep, you're
5
right.
egg
it does
scatterers.
Not say easy. Okay.
I would not say that Congos are necessarily easy,
No.
but at this point, they have been captive bred long enough that I think that they're doable without doing too much extra.
They gotta get big.
Yeah. Go with mature ones, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, even just raise them up.
I mean, they're
they
worth
get-
it as a display fish
They're gorgeous
until
when
they
they're
get
big.
to that size.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. You do your part on this,
Yeah.
and then I'll come in with what I want to
But
say about
people are willing to do that for rainbow fish,
That's a true story.
and they take longer.
No, that takes way longer.
them. Wow, Amy's coming for your soul.
Yeah. And like genuinely to me, Congo tetras are the African rainbow fish.
Other than the Madagascar rainbow fish, which sorry, I had to do a technicality.
Tangentially African. It's set as, we don't talk about Madagascar
No, I think-
when we're
you're right.
talking about categorizing organisms.
Right. That's true.
But there are so many different varieties, but the standard basic Congo tetra is a beautiful fish. It's an entertaining fish. It's a unique looking fish.
Sexually dimorphic.
Sexually dimorphic. If you have mature fish, they should spawn fairly regularly. You might need to cut your water a little bit, but it should be doable.
Cut your water and pop the temperature.
Yeah. But they're beautiful, and I think it would be a great avenue to start working up to some of the wild Congo tetras, which I think are virtually untapped in the hobby for no good reason.
Some of the new wild type Congo tetras are unbelievably gorgeous.
And so many of them are still undescribed, but still pretty readily available to us. There's just no interest there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think if there were more people out there popularizing the standard Congo tetra, which deserves it, it would be a great avenue to get into those fish and have them be more popular.
I like it.
So
It's one I've always wanted to work with. Like, I've kept them, but I've never tried to actually spawn them. And
It's one of my favorite freshwater fish overall. I love their ridiculous tails. I think they're really fun to watch. I still think they're a beautifully shaped fish, even with the females, and it's worth having females around to get to see the males.
you know what, Amy? You've done it. You've inspired me. I've talked about it for a long time that I actually want to work with this fish, so I'm going to say it. Charles, work with him.
Did you see that group of males we just got? Those are mature.
yeah. What I'm going to say about Congo tetras is I cannot remember which issue, but there's an issue of Amazonas. Just look it up on the Reef to Rainforest website.
I'm sure we have it somewhere back there.
Yeah, we definitely have it. I just can't remember which issue. It talks about a guy who all he breeds is different species of Congo tetras.
Ooh, fun.
And the way he keeps his Congos is so cool because he has these custom made like 6-foot tanks that are like this tall and from the table and like that wide. And
He's
he keeps
indicating like a foot tall.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, he keeps like 20 of them, and every once in a while he'll just pull out a few and spawn them, and he puts them back. So not only like his fish room is very much designed to be like display and conditioning his
Raising
spawners.
condition.
And I
That's
was
perfect.
like, oh my god! And just the photos of his tanks, like that alone, even if you're not into Congo tetras, you need to look this up because these are aquascaped. Like they're not like fancy planted aquascapes, but they're aquascaped to look good.
Yeah. It's a fish that makes any tank into a display.
Yes.
Like
I
it
think that's
doesn't
true.
matter what everything else looks like. If you've got any species of Congo tetra in there, it's automatically a display.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just my call out to if you want to be inspired and you need to see photos to be inspired, look those up and then be inspired.
Yeah. It's part of my inspiration for loving them so much. That article really resonated with me too.
Yeah.
That's the article that got me, that pointed my attention to some of the other types, the blue neons that we have.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love the orange flash. I love the red. Any species I've seen is stunning.
Yep.
It's funny. I don't think any of us have talked about that specific article with each other, but we all like really remembered.
It's memorable.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. I like it. Good one.
All right, Charles.
Charles. What are you going to talk about next?
I'm going to say the checkerboard barb.
Ooh,
They're probably the least flashy color-wise. Pattern-wise, they're probably the most ridiculous thing on my list. Because they have that weird, like, almost like backgammon, because, like, only the edge of their scales has that black on it. And it's like these, like, weird like oblique lines of just black going down their body, and then the males will develop some like reddish orange highlights in their fins. They just look cool. And I think a group of those moving around would be really fun to watch, like, you know, fishy zebras.
Are those in the same group as like Odessas and Rosies?
They're actually more closely related to cherry barbs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Aren't they in a weird genus? Yeah, it's Oleoteus.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
is that that's not monotypic, is it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't remember what else is in there, though. Like, that's the one I know of in that genus. It's the only fish that comes up if you just do a quick search of it, but
Okay.
that's probably just because it's common.
Yeah. I think it's the only common one.
Is that what those Stolichgana were?
No, they're one of the Pethia barbs.
Oh, okay. Because they look so similar to me.
Yeah.
But the checker's smaller, isn't it?
Yeah, they're definitely one of the smaller barbs, and they're really chill. I've been on
Aren't
my
barbs mean?
no.
Just kidding.
The checkerboard barbs are calm enough that I would even trust them with cardinal tetras personally.
Wow.
They don't care about other fish. They barely even chase each other.
Yeah, they stay under 2 inches. 4.5 millimeters is, or 45, I'm sorry. 4.5 centimeters
Yeah.
is what Seriously Fish has for them. So that's a small fish.
It's a cute
Yeah.
little guy.
It's like a mini barb. They still have that very distinct barb-like look. Like
Yeah.
their body shape is similar to tiger barbs.
But they don't even get as big as cherry barbs. And cherry barbs are always the metric for me of like what's a big and small barb, just because
Yeah.
that's the one I'm most familiar with. But they're tiny. But that's definitely a fish that I think that's for me. If I wanted people to get into barbs, that would be the gateway drug barb, just because they're so applicable to a lot of tanks. They're so calm, but they're sturdy. So like you could keep them with something more boisterous, like, you know, rainbows if you want.
Yeah, but not if you're going to spawn them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And would you say those guys would be more a separate the males and females, or just keep them all together for a while and pop them out of the tank?
Honestly, think either strategy would work, but I'm always going to be a proponent of pair spawning of barbs, only because that's what I do with them.
Right.
I will say, though, I think a lot of Ben and I have talked about a lot of different strategies for raising, rearing, and spawning these egg scatterers. And I'm going to say, I don't think any of these strategies is the right way. I'm going to say that the way I spawn them is the right way for me, and the way you spawn is the right way for you. I think a lot of egg scattering spawning is just figuring out what works best for the way you like to keep tanks, and not so much of a what's the best way. I don't even like that wording. It's just what's most fun for you to do it.
What's a good way that works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be
I like
okay with a degree of what you may consider failure.
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Raising 3 fry is a success. Raising 6 gets you some points. Raising any more than that is a bonus. And egg
Yeah.
scatterers are designed so that some fry don't survive.
And you know what's really
That's why
cool?
they spawn every
Yeah,
night.
it's
Yeah.
not a failure to not raise every fry that you have hatched.
Right.
Any proportion is a success.
Yeah, and you know what's really fun about egg scatterers? If it didn't work out, you can immediately try again.
Try again tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of them is that, like, man, egg scatterers are the true testament of try and try and try again until you succeed. Because, like, when I was breeding the Betta Immaculata, there was probably, like, if they were really going for it, maybe every 6 weeks I'd get a spawn from them.
Yeah. That was what my experience was with my cichlids.
Yeah.
2 months between just for prep time. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
But like another example of I'm going to call out the failures of I tried 7 species. I got 5 spawns. I've gotten fry from 2 species. One that the eggs just didn't hatch. The male was probably kind of meh, and the other 2 are we'll see.
yeah.
Like
Did you have fun and your hands were wet?
exactly.
Yes. Exactly.
That's what this is all about.
Did you get to see some baby fish, which are really cute and exciting? Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, just because it's like, man, you're gonna fail at some point with
Right.
egg scatterers. But here's the thing: it's a really easy group of fish to just like brush the dust off your pants and try again.
Yeah.
Yeah, try a different method in 5 different tanks every week, you know? Keep doing it.
That's actually a great segue to my last fish.
Okay.
It is.
What do you got?
Because of, try a different method in 5 different tanks. It's the fish that is, I was going to use the word probably, but I'm going to use the word I'm sure is the most experimented on fish in the world.
Oh, here we go.
It has been, and genetic studies and water quality studies and just all kinds of reasons that people breed the heck out of this fish for scientific purposes. And it's because they're so easy to breed. They're not very temperature dependent. They're not very water quality dependent.
If we're thinking the same fish, they've been used for studies as far-ranging as thymidase.
I am talking about zebra danios.
That is not the fish
Yes.
I was thinking of, but
No?
you are right. Holy cow. These are considered, I can't believe these didn't pop into my head, especially
Yeah,
because you
I was
hinted it
surprised.
earlier. These are considered a model organism in scientific labs because they are one of the few things that we have a mapped genome of. They're like medical research, embryonic research, all, like this huge swath of stuff, which is only me getting excited about. When I got hired for my first job out of college, it was to work with zebra danios in a lab.
Yeah, how did you not come up with
I
that? That's my
know,
description.
exactly.
Yes. And I choose to believe that like model organism is like model student, as in like you get an A+.
Yeah.
Like good fish.
I like
Well
that.
done.
There's an entire industry out there that hobbyists are not familiar with for people to design recirculating systems just for labs to have zebra danios.
So they can have so many of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's an infamous trademark fish that now comes with crazy bright colors. That's a zebra danio that they're so hardy they crossed them with jellyfish and the zebra danios survived.
Yes. Should we talk about white skirt tetras too if we're gonna?
Well, but
No,
they,
but
they
zebra
had to
danios
learn all
are-
kinds of stuff about it with zebra danios.
Yeah.
And the original reason for doing it was not so you could have glow in the dark fish to have in your kids' room with night sky or other substances. It was for pollution studies, so you could see them in polluted waters, so you could study the effects of pollution on fish.
Yeah, I think they were searching for like being able to trigger that reaction when they encountered pollution, right?
Yeah, I think the original goal was try to make them selectively fluoresce, and that just never worked. But
Now they're rich.
Yeah, richer than they would have been if they had solved pollution problems.
It's true.
Sorry, that was too real.
Yeah, we weren't going to go we weren't going to go that direction in this talk.
No,
We're
this
gonna- we're
was just
keeping it
fun.
but
So I've
They're a
spawned
great
them
choice.
with 2 different methods, and I did use put a whole bunch of them with a bunch of Java moss, and boom, got fry. I also put these in my pond one year, and I put 6 of them in the pond in May or June, and starting in August, I started pulling out a dozen or so every week. And I pulled a dozen or so every week out until the first frost. I didn't get even close to all of them. I got as many of them as I possibly could. Hundreds and hundreds of them from 6. And the ones that I pulled out, they were not black and, that kind of tannish color. They were dark blue and yellow.
yeah,
They were beautiful.
properly conditioned zebra danios are actually sexually dimorphic.
Oh, for sure.
In a properly done scenario, and I'm trying to say this cautiously because I'm not trying to tell people they're doing them wrong, but maybe I am. But the males will actually have a little bit of gold to them, and the females will be a little silvery, in addition to that blue and stuff going on in there.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, if you have a group of well-loved zebra danios, they are really easy to sex.
I have a big oak tree over my pond, which means inevitably there are oak leaves in the pond. So there's a lot of tannins in the pond, and I think that contributed to the color as well.
Probably.
They were beautiful. They were zebra Daniels, and they were beautiful fish.
Yeah. Can a fish be both overrated and underrated? Like, it deserves more love in the tanks that it's in. But
Right.
it's in a lot of tanks.
It's in a lot of tanks because they're so easy.
They're so
I
hardy.
think what you're talking about refers to, I would word it as they unjustly get sorted into a beginner-only fish, and then everyone moves on. I think this is a fish that as you mature as a hobbyist, you deserve to let this fish mature with you too.
I think that's
Yeah.
that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, I think the fish that we sort of like coined this for was cardinal tetras, actually. But I think in a similar way, zebra Danios have a place in every stage of the hobby. I would love to see them in a beautiful aquascape. I don't think I ever have.
I don't think I have either. No, I have. In, I think Nature Aquarium World Book 1, Takashi Amano uses them.
Oh, interesting.
We need to verify that, but I'm pretty sure he does.
Because we see a lot of pictures of beautiful aquascapes, but we don't always see a lot of videos. And the movement of a large group of zebra Danios is mesmerizing.
That's a good point. Now I want to try a large group of zebra Danios in a tank.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I'm willing to catch out those Chopre Danios because people think we don't have fish in there because they only hang out at the top.
That's kind of a good plan. I like it. To catch out the Chopre Daniels and then put them in one of the spawning tanks in the basement for a while.
Yep.
And then we can sell them.
I mean, wait, are we in sort of more free-form discussion now?
Yeah,
I've used my
went through.
list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm kind of surprised Chopres weren't on yours.
It's because I've never personally spawned them. I will admit I have attempted into the past. When I was of the mind to try to, this was before I went to college. I walked into a store, saw a group of 5, and I bought. And I've had a lot of stories that are similar to this. I bought the entire group. I ended up with all males.
Oh, no.
And so I said, all right, well, can't even try. And then I went to college, and then I've never been of the mind to try again just because I haven't wanted to.
Well, sounds like something we need to rectify.
If you haven't been
soon.
noticing, the ones downstairs are getting really fat. And that's
Nice.
because I mentioned the Danios, I think, benefit from the group spawning. I'm working on a group of Vietnam white clouds. It's not a Daniel, but they spawn very similarly. And some fire ring Danios, when those either fail or succeed, the Chopres are next on my list.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear.
So,
You know, we should take this this whole quarantine breeding thing up a notch.
try to breed them in
Okay.
quarantine tanks.
I think the next order that we do, we kind of make sure we get 10 or 15 egg scatterers. Make sure we have room. Like, plan it out a little bit so that we've got room in tanks where we can put only that egg scatter in that tank. Put a little extra Java moss in the tank with them or some extra spawning media in the tanks with them. Put them through the quarantine process. Move them up. See what happens.
What if instead, or maybe in addition to, or instead of, we just did spawning mops in the bottom and move them out
It would
between quarantine? Like, just take the
Ooh,
whole
yeah,
spawning mop
yeah.
out before we move the next fish in.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, sorry. Like that pause was me thinking logistics, and I'm.
I love when I can physically see the gears churning in Charles's head, like.
If you haven't experienced it in the store, sometimes if I'm trying to make sure the person like is sitting there waiting for me to do something, I'll say I'm processing.
Loading,
Yeah.
loading.
That's a little window into how the three of us often spend time down in the basement. Going, okay, guys, what about? Right. What if we did this?
And then they just get silence from me because I'm like thinking.
Ooh.
That usually means I'm excited, by the way, because
He's either panicking or he's really excited about it.
yeah, and I'm trying to think about how to do it. As long as we're talking about all these like easy egg scatterers to do and how to do them, if you've never been a subscriber to the digital edition of Tropical Fish Hobbyist, the 2010 Breeders Challenge was a year-long article series where Ted Judy and Mike Helwig were trying to beat each other to spawn the most fish in a year. So let me tell you, give you some spoilers. Both of them pulled off individually 150 species plus.
I think it was 167 to 168.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like some insane numbers like that.
Insanity.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there were some cichlids on there. That was not the majority of what they were trying to do.
Ted was a little salty about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and for like every fish on my list, there's at least 2 or 3 closely related that would be just as easy.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Some I'm going to just buzz through some of those, right? So we did, was it Hangleis or Espies that we did? The Resboras.
Espies.
Espies.
So Resbora Hangeli and Resbora heteromorpha should probably be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even like there's an endangered trigonostigma, some fungi.
Oh, yes.
Which is fairly regularly available captive bred
Yeah.
and like
I
2
would
for 1.
I would imagine it would be the same.
Yeah.
Diamond tetras, Colombian red and blue tetras should be just like the Emperor tetras.
My mom breeds diamond tetras in her community tank.
Yeah, that's how I did those as well. Was just babies showed up in a densely planted tank. Babies showed up. Same with the Colombian red and blues.
Dozens of species of Hyphus abricon, lemon, flame, serpe, black skirt, white skirt. That's 5 already.
Right.
Ember tetras and Prostella tetras are considered two of the easier tetra species.
That'd be fun.
And
Yeah.
a little smaller.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the little teaser I did about the Grand Valley Aquarium Club Breeder Diversity Award Challenge, where you need to breed a fish from each category, and we said, okay, we just busted through easy rainbows, easy cyprinids, easy tetras, characins, rosy loaches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should be, now I've never done them, but the articles and everything you read about them is it should be one that is it's an egg scattering, schooling loach.
Yeah, and they do spawn constantly. They only didn't make my list just because I've never heard an in-person report of actually raising fry.
Right.
But, I mean, they spawn literally all of the time.
Constantly.
In our retail
Yeah.
tanks.
With other fish all around, cichlids,
Eat the
whatever,
eggs up.
they don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. I think that's one that in a big, dense clump of Java moss to raise the fry, because I know the fry are going to be teeny tiny. This is a dwarf loach. I mean, these guys are tiny, 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch for the really big ones.
Very sexually dimorphic, by the way.
Right.
Oh, these are cool. This is like okay. As long as we're talking about sexual dimorphism, this is like 2 fish for 1 because they have entirely different patterns. They look like 2 different fish species.
What's the other one that we get in that's really similar?
You're talking about the Cruciatus? Is that the multi-stripe loach?
Yeah.
The Laotian.
Multi-barred,
Yeah.
I think is what they actually call it. Those should be just as easy.
That's a species I tried to spawn here, and then they were someone's dream fish, and I felt obligated. And I'm not saying this is not me disparaging that person or anything. That person deserved those fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we'll get some more.
And I was like,
You bet.
next time.
Yep. Yep.
I would love to do the rosies too, though. Like that would be another good one to. I
It'd
just
be
want
fun.
to. Like I've heard that exact same report from a lot of people, and I just want to see it. I want to see it happen.
Exactly. So get on it, Charles.
It's on the list.
All right, good. Just a little side note. I believe the other fish, if you do want to get the Diversity Award Challenge, I believe there's a goby, which for that you should do peacock gobies because they're really
yeah.
easy. It's a cichlid. Pick one. It's a catfish. You should do dwarf bristlenose plecos
Or corycats.
or corycats.
That-
Dwarf bristlenose plecos to me are a little easier than most of the cories, although a lot of the cory fish breeders out there would disagree. But
That little bit of parental care kind of pushes you over to
Yeah.
it does. I'm just so used to
the
that.
easiness.
Yeah.
But I'm a coryc guy. I was breeding corycats in my teen years, so
Okay.
I'm always going to advocate
To you,
for
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've
Good.
never incidentally bred cory cats.
Yeah.
We have definitely incidentally bred bristlenose placodes.
If you want
Right.
stories about breeding corycats, that's not for this podcast.
No.
Come on down to the gallery and I'll talk about it.
We should do Corey's podcast, but that's like big.
That's a big one.
I think, am I miss? An anabantoid. You got to do an anabantoid.
Pick
Yep.
one.
Pick one. Yeah. A mouth brooding betta to me was the one that
Yeah.
I worked with. Cause
Blue
they were
paradise
easy, but
fish.
Blue paradise fish
Like-
should be easy.
Throw a pair in there.
Honey gouramis, we did those incidentally here.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yep.
Yeah, I hesitate to say accidentally, incidentally,
Incidentally,
because
yes.
we always want to breed fish.
Right.
Just going to talk about the barbs a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
Basically, any of the
Big surprise.
Yeah, basically any of the Pythia barbs.
Black rubies.
Stupid easy to
Yeah.
take. The anything that's
Odessas.
still technically in the Puntius genus, those are really easy. Those two generas in particular, I would, if you're looking to just do a lot of the same different variations of the same thing, those are the two genera I'd point you at least in the barbs.
I can't believe I didn't talk about the inlay lake rasboras as one of my favorites. That's like one of my favorite. It's the
Wait,
only fish I still have at home.
Rasboras or Danios? Because
Inlay
we've
Lake
had
Daniel.
both. Okay.
They were rasbora. When I got them, everybody thought they were rasbora.
But there is one that they now call Lake Inlay Rasbora, which I think is no. Maybe I'm thinking of the Fireline Danio, which is also it's a confusing area
It
with
is.
a lot of different.
It is, yes.
Renaming.
So Inlay Lake rasboras was one that I did and sort of used that method. I had Java moss growing like crazy in my Inlay Lake Danio tank, pulled the Java moss out, stuck it in 10-gallon tanks, and babies showed up.
Yeah.
All right, so how do we do, guys? We covered at least 5 species each that are really easy. I think we made a really good case for people shouldn't be afraid of egg scatterers. If
No.
you want to breed something, you don't have to look at cichlids.
Yeah. And if you want to breed in bulk, I think this is the group to look at.
I think it is too.
Or if you want to just, selectively breed and try to make a strain of your own.
If you're going for the Breeder of the Year challenge with the Grand Valley Aquarium Club, or I believe a lot of the aquarium clubs all around the country have the same kinds of breeder award challenges. If you need to turn and burn, egg scatterers.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you don't have a club, do it for bragging rights.
Yes. Yes. It'd be fun. Well, hopefully those of you on Facebook had lots of fun listening to us rant again. And those of you out in the podcast world, we definitely appreciate you listening. Let us know some of the easy things or accidental things that you bred. What kind of babies just showed up in your tanks? I'd love to hear some of those stories, even if they're not egg scatterers, but particularly egg scatterers for the comments on this one. Again, whatever it is, just let us know.
Yeah, you can always reach out to podcast@watercolorsaquariumgallery.com with questions, comments, concerns, pictures. Love the pictures. We've been getting a few lately that have been awesome. If you have suggestions on what you want to hear us talk about, we would love to hear that too. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe, give us a rating and review on iTunes. That's how we see most of our feedback. And just keep in touch. Let us know what you're doing in your fish room.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Let's have lots of fun and keep those hands wet.